Hello, my name is Assemblywoman Sheila Oliver, representing the 34th Legislative District, and I am so pleased to be here today hosting the weekly program of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus. Senator Ronald Rice serves as our chair, and the entire membership of our caucus seeks to bring issues of importance that affect communities of color all throughout the state. I am pleased today to focus on the issue of higher education. A lot is said in New Jersey, and many debates take place in the State House with K-12 education. But going to college and the opportunity to have access to college and financing and support is extremely important to communities of color from one end of the state to the other. I am pleased to have with me today Maretta Hodges and Al-Jihad White, who represent statewide organizations of Educational Opportunity Fund programs. We're going to delve today into issues affecting access to higher education for populations of students who historically have not been able to gain access into higher ed. Technology has changed, the job market has changed, career paths have changed, and we know it is essential that we support and create opportunities for communities of color to access and obtain college degrees. Maretta, I'm so glad to have you here today, and Al-Jihad, and I want to salute your leadership as head of the New Jersey Educational Opportunity Fund Professional Association. And Al-Jihad, I am pleased with the leadership you are exerting in the student organization. I'd first like to let our viewers know what EOF is all about. And I would have to take the viewers back to the 1960s when it was virtually impossible in the state of New Jersey for African American and Latino students to gain entree into colleges and universities in this state. And at the time, our former governor, Tom Kean, was serving in the state legislature. He was an assemblyman. He was also an assembly speaker. Assemblyman Kean sponsored legislation to create a program that would grant entry into every college in this state for those who had come from historically blocked backgrounds. The legislation that was created established a law that every college in this state must have 10% of its incoming freshman class represented by students who were recruited into their respective colleges by the Educational Opportunity Fund program. It was designed to grant access, but also a wide array of support services and financial assistance. And with that, I am going to ask Maretta, in terms of her leadership of the statewide organization, to pretty much give us a glimpse into what's happening with EOF today.
Well, first I'd like to thank you for the invitation to be able to speak on behalf of the Professional Association. Basically, we are still doing the same kind of things that we did when EOF was established, and I do thank you for giving some information in regards to the history. Students that are EOF traditionally go through so many difficulties. A lot of times, these are the students that traditionally come from what used to be called those Abbott school districts, and the students may still be the first persons in their family to actually go to college. Many of them don't necessarily have the GPAs or the SAT scores to enter. So we kind of come in and we help rebuild the student. Most of them are motivated. They want to go, but don't necessarily have the means to be successful. So we come in and we do exactly that. As far as the association goes, we're continuing that fight. We try to make sure that each of the institutions are still honoring the 10%. We still make sure that our students are rising above and beyond whatever the other students come through as far as the standards are concerned. Today I've also brought along Al-Jihad White, who is in fact one of our students, who's working diligently towards being an EOF student and a very good student at our institution as well.
Al-Jihad, tell me how you learned about the Educational Opportunity Fund program in New Jersey, and what process did you go through to apply to become an EOF student?
I first learned about EOF as a high school senior. You know, everybody's running around trying to get into schools. A lot of people didn't know where they were going. Some people just didn't care they were going. And I knew I had to get a college degree, so I went and talked to my guidance counselor, and he told me to look into the Educational Opportunity Fund. I did a little research into it, and I felt as though that it was a program that could help me in the long run. It was a program, the first program that I actually looked into was Bloomfield's, because the recruiter came to my school and she gave us a very detailed explanation of what the program is, what the benefits could be, the type of motivation that you'll get once you're in the program, the network that you'll be built, that you'll build as you progress through the program and through your 4 years, 5 years in college. And that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. You know, early in my working career, I had the opportunity to work in several EOF programs. And I will tell you, that period of time was probably one of the most professionally and personally fulfilling periods of my work life. And I started off working in the Caldwell College EOF program. Caldwell College was not as large a student body then as it is today, but I served as the coordinator of career training and advisement for students, and the experience was so wonderful because a student that enters any one of the colleges in New Jersey through EOF immediately is provided with a support base. And my students and the other professionals that worked within the EOF organization at Caldwell, we were really like a family and an extended family. As the professionals working in the organization, we got to know the parents of the students, we got to know the siblings of the students. We hosted a lot of activities that were designed to bring parents onto the campuses, because for those families where it is the first experience of someone in the family going to college, it's an overwhelming experience. I know for many of the students that I dealt with at Caldwell during that period of time, to be uprooted from Patterson or Willingboro or some of the other towns that the students came from, and to live here in Caldwell, New Jersey, it was cultural shock for many of those students. I learned that in the dormitories, a lot of students had to acclimate themselves to a process of living away from home. And I think that one of the most successful models that's been established through EOF has been the support system. Absolutely. Any problem that a student had, I don't care if it's financial, if they had a death in the family, if there were issues going on with brothers or sisters who had challenges, our students would come and talk to us, and we were able to help them problem solve. Because the thing that we did not want to happen is for a student to be confronted with a challenge and think that their only way to overcome that challenge is by dropping out of school. And I think that that is the highest accolade that I can give to the EOF program, the type of support base that it provides for students. And Maretta, you mentioned that often EOF is able to admit students into the respective colleges despite the fact that they haven't achieved a 15 or 2,500 on an SAT.
Absolutely.
And that is something that I learned, and I'm a strong believer that we should not judge or utilize a standardized test to determine who can succeed or not succeed in college. I've seen too many instances of students who may not have had the highest academic achievement in high school come to college, and in the college environment flourish and soar.
Absolutely.
And I would suspect that you've had that experience as an EOF professional.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because in addition to being an EOF professional, I was actually an EOF student. Mm-hmm. And when I graduated from high school, it was culture shock. It really was, because when I graduated, I actually graduated in the top of my class. But it wasn't until I came to college that I truly learned how to study, how to actually go into a book and read parts of the book and take the proper notes and socialize with people that didn't necessarily look like me. Mm-hmm. So there was so much that I learned from that. And what I find is that even today, as being a director of this very program, is that many of the students have the same kind of shocks. Mm-hmm. Every year, traditionally, in my program, we take students to a Broadway play. Now, granted, New York City is about 10 miles away from my institution. However, many of my students every single year have never gone to a Broadway play before. Many of them have never actually read a novel, but they're in college. So what we do is we tell the students that you can be anything you want to be. It's almost like planting, where we come to the students and we tell them, you are a rose. But when they look at themselves, many of them look at themselves as being seeds and dirt. But what we do is we nurture them and we bring them to where they need to be and show them that they're capable, and that college isn't always about being the 4.0. It's about persistence. Absolutely. And once they get that message, our students, not only do they enter the schools, but they thrive. They do amazing jobs. Many of our students are presidents of organizations. They lead in the student senate. They do amazing things once they finally get that message. The other thing that I think that's unique about EOF is that not only do we hold them accountable, but they hold each other accountable. Mm-hmm. I've seen students go as far as deactivate other students' Facebook page because they've been spending too much time on the internet and not studying. I've seen people bring food from their homes to make sure other students were able to eat. I've seen people come together as far as using cars to make sure that everybody is taken care of. So when they say EOF, I always think extension of family. It's an amazing thing. It really is, extension of family.
Mm-hmm. I love that acronym. Al-Jahad, tell me something about the student organization that you lead.
AES&J is an advocacy org for EOF on behalf of EOF. There's a lot of things that need to get done that can't get done because the people that are above us, they're pretty busy themselves. They have to run the EOF program at their respective schools. So what we do in the student organization is just advocate. In a nutshell, it's just advocacy. Create videos, create flyers, send emails, just to let people that are higher up know that we need more funding. We need our program to stay.
Have you experienced during your time in college that students have had to drop out of school because of the inability to financially deal with what is necessary? I know as a legislator, one of the things that concerns many of us, particularly the members of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus, is the fact that we have not seen significant increases in funding for colleges in New Jersey across the board. And when we think about the EOF program, we have seen insignificant increase in appropriations to EOF. And we know that the EOF program in New Jersey has been responsible for graduating 40,000 people. That's 40,000 people who have entered careers and occupations in this state. That's 40,000 people who are paying taxes in New Jersey, contributing to the health of our economy, purchasing homes in communities, and making major contributions to the quality of life in this state. And something that is of great consternation to not just myself, but all the members of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus, is the fact that we have students who may be able to get a foot in the door and start off at college, but will have to fight with every tooth to try to sustain themselves for the 4-year period. I'm certain, and I'm sure you can share with us, that some of your peers find themselves having to work 2 and 3 jobs at the same time, while at the same time trying to do homework and class assignments, etc. Tell me about some of the financial challenges that confront students in EOF.
Financially, as you know, it's hard paying for college, and on top of college, you still have to live your life. Personally speaking, I have a lot of responsibilities at my house. It was a situation at my house. I had to put in a lot of money to help my mother do what she needed to do, and that alone took a good portion of my money, my personal money. But as far as funding for schools, nobody's rich. And in the EOF program, nobody's rich. If you were rich, you wouldn't be in EOF. The fact that there haven't been significant increases in the funding, a lot of my friends and a lot of the students that are in EOF, they had to stop coming to school because they fell $1,000 short, $4,000 short to pay the financial aid, and a lot of them were already commuters. So the fact that commuter students aren't able to fully pay the tuition, it's unfair to them, because some of the students that have had to stop, they were really good students. They were always in the library, doing really good in class. Their professors loved them, and it's disheartening to know that money is the thing that stopped them from doing it, not they had to relocate because of this, or they no longer had the desire to go to school. It's something that they had no control of that stopped them from going to school, and that's unfair to them. And that's also unfair to the program itself, because the program is an investment in a student, and a student invests their time in the program. You wouldn't want to go through something for X amount of days, X amount of weeks, to be told once the semester starts, hey, you can't come here because you can't finish, you can't pay this off.
Yeah. Can I just add to what he's saying? Basically, what happens very often is when students enter school, their ability to be able to borrow monies to pay for school not only depends on their ability, but it also depends on their parents' credit worthiness. So if you're under the age of 24 for the most part, and your parents' credit is, let's just say, questionable, if there's some errors, some indications that the parent is unable to pay for school, what happens very often is the student is limited as far as the locations where the student can actually go to school, because they can only commute. So let's say if you have a student that lives down in Camden, New Jersey, and they're trying to go to a school that's in Newark or in Bloomfield, it's obvious that there's no way in the world that that student can afford to be a commuter. So because their parents don't necessarily have the credit, that student unfortunately would be forced to withdraw from school. And that's one of the challenges that we have very often. that, you know, students come in and they're motivated. They want to succeed. They're doing all the things that they need to do academically. But unfortunately, because their parents are not credit worthy, the places where they can actually go to school is very limited. Another factor that goes in with that is that there's a growing number of students that are in fact independent students because they're wards of the state for whatever reason. In 2012, there was as much as 28% of EOF students in the state of New Jersey that were considered independent. Now, those are students that came from DYFS, Division of, or formerly
DYFS, yeah,
the Division of Youth and Family Services, or it could have been the person was with a guardian or whatever. And if you don't necessarily have the means to pay the additional monies, because that's one of those things that people think happens. A lot of times people think that if you're an EOF student that you come to college for free, and that's so far from the truth. It really is. These students are responsible for all of the same academic criteria as any other student, the same loans, the same responsibilities, or in some cases more responsibilities. But we see so many students leaving because of this.
Yes, you know, as a legislator, one of the things that I'm very concerned with, and I have also expressed this to my federal representatives in New Jersey, because I think that the U.S. Congress began through several of the loan programs that are administered at a federal level, began this establishment of basing the ability of a student to apply for a loan on their parents' credit worthiness. And I find that so disheartening, particularly in New Jersey. New Jersey has the second highest foreclosure rate. We have not climbed out of the 2008 recession. Unemployment, we continue to have some of the highest unemployment rates in the state. And through no fault of your own, there are many heads of household in our state who are really struggling economically, and their children should not bear the brunt of those experiences and not afforded the opportunity to go to college. I met a young woman several days ago. She's 29 years old now. She is working, but she has $100,000 worth of student loan debt. She will be close to 70 years old after paying that debt. And I challenge not just our federal representatives, but I challenge the leadership in our own state to address the issue of affordability. And this is something that is first and foremost on the agenda for many members of the legislature, and without question the members of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus and Senator Rice, our chair, will be doing further public pronouncements about this issue of college affordability. Tell me, for instance, because I'm glad you brought that up, that people make an assumption, oh, if EOF student, you go to college for free. Let us take an institution like Rutgers, where annual tuition could conceivably be $30,000 a year, let's say, when you factor in room and board and fees. For a student going to a school like Rutgers, what would be the annual grant, EOF grant, for a student at Rutgers?
Okay. The annual grant, I believe, I could be off a little, but at, let's say, a Rutgers, I believe it's about $1,000 per semester. That's it.
Which is nothing
compared to a $30,000 bill. And you just gave the bill based on tuition. You might want to add another $12,000, $13,000 in order for you to be able to live on campus, paying for a room and board. And, you know, traditionally, the EOF student, the students that we're referring to, are those that might have been interested in going to an HBCU, but unfortunately, they don't have the means to commute from here to a school in the South. Their parents just can't afford it, and they can't afford to miss any kind of state funding. So that's all we give. At the state level, if a student went to, let's say, a Montclair or William Patterson, it would be $750 per semester. At an independent colleges, some of the private institutions, it's a grand total of $2,500.
That breaks my heart. It really, really does. For the benefit of our viewers, I would like to just indicate what the EOF eligibility is. If there is, for 2014-2015, if the family size is 3, the total household income can be no higher than $39,060. That is for a family of 3. And as Maretta, you just made mention of, you could have a household income of no higher than $39,000 just to be eligible for a $2,000 grant for the whole year. A family of 5, your gross income can be no higher than $55,140. And let's say a family of 6, you could have an income no higher than $63,180. And as we know, we are in one of the highest cost of living states in the country. And it is unconscionable that we cannot focus more legislative focus on elevating the cost and to students in terms of affordability. And then for our EOF population, certainly we have not kept pace with inflation in terms of the amounts of these annual awards. And you know, the issue of transportation, I know myself and some of my peers have raised money amongst ourselves just to pay for a train ticket for a student to get from one part of the state to the other, or at holiday time to be able to go home. I've seen in many instances students who have remained on their campuses and in their dorm rooms because of the cost of going home. I think that as a state, we certainly should commit to doing better than that, because college in this day and age is an essential. You know, when I think about my grandparents' generation, or I think about my parents' generation, the economy was much different, and if you acquired a 12th grade education, you could have a phenomenal career. I'm a baby boomer, so I have many peers who, when they graduated from high school, they were able to go get a job at AT&T, or they went to work at IBM, and they had illustrious careers and basically made more money during the course of their careers than many people who pursued college. That is not the case with our economy. Big corporations with good, healthy benefits and pensions have gone away. And we know that for someone to aspire to a middle-class lifestyle in the state of New Jersey, you are going to need to be armed with a college education. One of the things that I am interested in, and I've seen examples of it across the country, is having our K through 12 school districts partner with colleges and universities and 2-year community colleges to extend curriculums in high school so that students can begin to earn college credit while they are in high school. That will minimize the total cost of acquiring a college education. Absolutely. I have seen models across the country where a student can remain in his or her high school for 2 additional years and acquire an associate's degree. Have these kinds of issues been looked at within the NJEOFPA organization?
This is something that is relatively new, and it has definitely come to the table in regards to education, of higher education, as well as our connection with the K through 12 system. With the country going to a place of Common Core as far as trying to have a standardized set of how college is actually done and our relationships with the high school, it's something that's inevitable that we definitely have had to have those conversations with. There's a lot that can be done. There's definitely a lot that can be done. Within the EOF program, we are doing more to try to make sure that we foster some of those relationships. Within my program, I know with our AESNJ program, we very often have those students link with the younger students to kind of get them to come back and talk about what their process was to be successful in college, and for the younger students, what they should be doing to prepare for that. It's so funny because I can speak to a student all day long, but it's not as effective until it comes from one of their peers. So it's really important that we train them to make sure that they can come back. But as far as the curriculum itself, definitely the state of New Jersey is moving in that direction, and you know that chapter still hasn't been written yet, but it's happening very fast.
Yeah. Al-Jihad, tell me something about campus life. For a lot of students who decide they're going to apply and go to college, and they enter that institution their freshman year, how are students able to easily adapt to the structure of the college environment, the expectations that people have of students?
This is a unique question because I have both sides of the spectrum, because I've been a commuter and I've been a resident. Adjusting to campus life, it's not hard. You just have to be willing to adjust to it. Because when everything depends on what dorm you live in. Some places have more strict rules than other places, but at the end of the day, everybody has their rules. Just like living at your house, you will have to abide by your mother's rules, your father's rules. What's your question?
Do students feel that college and the environment of college is a lot different than the experience that they had in high school? And if they do find that experience very different, do your peers find it difficult to adjust to what is required in college versus what was required of them in high school?
Okay. There's a huge difference from being a high school student to being a college student, because a high school student, you don't live with the people you go to class with. So after school, if you don't hang out with those people or you don't play a sport with those people, that's all you see of them. But if you are a resident at the school, you live with your peers. You see them every day. The people you have class with, you see them every day. The adjustment itself is not difficult as long as you're willing to make the adjustment. What I mean is, if you're the type of person that's antisocial, or you're not really fond of being in social places, you may have difficulties adjusting to living on campus, but it's college, so you're going to want to be a part of everything. You're going to want to do this, and especially as an incoming freshman, not knowing anything, you're still in the ignorant stage of being a high school senior, so you just want to experience everything as a freshman. So that want to experience college as a freshman is gonna make you become a more social person, and it's gonna make you want to stay on campus, and you'll enjoy your time on campus.
Get involved in more activities. I went to undergraduate school decades ago, and but I still have fond memories and remembrances of my freshman year in college. And I went to college out of state, but I had the support of two of my best friends from high school, and the three of us went to the same college together. So I already had a built-in network, because whoever they met, I now met. And so we had the ability to really meet a lot of people during that freshman year. But I do know that it is difficult for many students who, and you raise the issue, if they're not very extroverted or, you know, easily meet people, or if they've never, you know, one of the things that is very disturbing to us in New Jersey is that New Jersey has one of the most segregated public school systems in the country. And many students in New Jersey have never gone to school with anyone that is different than themselves. And I have seen through my involvement in work on many campuses that, you know, just the whole experience of meeting for the first time someone who potentially could be of Arab descent or East Indian descent or African American descent or Latino descent. For some students in New Jersey, coming to college is the first time they've ever had that kind of a social interaction. And I think that we need to do something about that in New Jersey. You know, last Saturday represented the 60th anniversary of the infamous Brown versus Board of Education decision handed down by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court 60 years ago maintained that we could not have separate but equal school systems in this country. Many of us lament when we look back over 60 years that we continue to maintain segregated school systems. But many of us in New Jersey, particularly the members of the Legislative Black Caucus, understand that that has a lot to do with housing and patterns of housing in New Jersey. And we've been in court probably for 25 to 30 years around the issue of creating affordable housing in New Jersey. That's what creates segregation in our public school system. Because I told you about the affordability of New Jersey, the cost of living in New Jersey, the amount of money you need to live in Morris County versus Essex County versus Mercer County is going to determine where certain people can live. And that is a challenge represented to the members of not only the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus, but our entire legislature and our gubernatorial administration as well. One of the things that I think I have always enjoyed through the years, and I've had the opportunity to participate and work in as well, is the EOF pre-college program. Maretta, tell us about EOF pre-college. I think it is one of the best kept secrets in the state of New Jersey.
Absolutely. Anyone who has ever gone through the EOF Summer Intensive Program would never forget that experience. It's one of those that it's almost like boot camp, where students come in straight from high school. Some of them might have graduated 2-3 days from high school. Some of them come back to school later on to graduate. And it's an intensive program where the student is taught how to be a successful college student. Now, granted, EOF is in fact an academic support program, but in the summer program, we deal with those other issues, the issues that ultimately lead students to wind up out the door. How do you dress when you come to school? How do you want to be perceived as a college scholar? How do you maintain relationships with people who aren't college scholars or college graduates? Because we all know many times people might have the best intentions for you, but if you really haven't gone through the trail of being, in fact, a college student, it's kind of hard to describe what the experience is like. So we teach the students that, you know, this path that you're going on, you can't take everyone. You can't take them. And for many of them, it's a shocker. The summer program, for the most part, our day starts as early as 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. in the morning, and we have group activities to as late as 10 o'clock at night. We travel. We often take the students to Broadway plays. We teach them culture. We teach them things like how to actually sit at a table and eat a meal that has a full setting. Many of our students eat dinner at McDonald's and have been for many years. So when they get to the table, they don't know about the place settings and which fork do you grab first. Or if you're going on an interview or talking to someone, who plays lead in that conversation? Whenever you're trying to network, who plays lead? What questions do you ask? Who do you allow to speak? These are all the things that we deal with during this, well, in many programs. It used to be 6 weeks, but a lot of our programs have had to be reduced over the years. So some of the programs can be for credit, others are not. But the biggest thing about the intensive summer program that all of our EOF programs experience is the actual mentorship where we truly bond with the students. It's an incredible experience.
I had to smile as you were describing that, because I remember several years ago I was invited to the Rutgers Newark campus, where I went to a lecture hall, and assembled there were students from Rutgers Newark, NJIT, and what was then University of Medicine and Dentistry, New Jersey. And one of the first things I did when I entered the lecture hall, I grabbed the waste paper basket and I walked up and down the aisles, and anybody that was chewing gum had to deposit their gum in that waste paper basket. And you're absolutely right. I began during the course of the summer to establish the protocol. There is no gum chewing in a college classroom. I vividly remember one young man who he had and I know this is fashion forward, but he had his team baseball caps. And I had to spend about 30 minutes giving a protocol lesson to the students that it is not socially acceptable to wear your hat indoors. And you know, many of the students, you know, we debated the issue, and many of them said, well, you know, everybody does this, you know, you wear your hat, you know, and then you see it, the Yankees, or, you know, your favorite basketball team, or your political message, you wear it on your baseball cap. But I challenged students and I said, you can choose to do that, but understand that the first day you walk in that classroom or lecture hall, and you have on a baseball cap and you're chewing gum, that professor is going to form an opinion about you from day one. And while he or she should not inject bias into that in terms of, you know, your final grade, that bias will seep in. And so I'm very glad to see that we are still heightening the consciousness of students about issues like that. If you want to wear 5 earrings, you know, and droopy pants, no, it's not correct. Everybody does it. This is the age group and the generation that you belong to. But there will be opinions formed about you. The other thing I'd like to ask, Maretta, I know, and I don't know if these programs exist. Maybe we haven't provided adequate funding for these programs as well. But EOF directors used to also have a component whereby children from 7th grade through 12 could come to college campuses on Saturdays, and then during the summer they would come for a couple of weeks. Do we still have those kinds of programs operating in New Jersey?
In New Jersey, those programs generally would be your college-bound programs, your upward-bound programs, and we are very closely linked with those programs. And, you know, those students do extremely well. Usually, the ones that I know of off the top of my head, I know they have some in Newark, there are some in Jersey City, there's a huge one in Patterson, but those programs are phenomenal, and traditionally those students go to college. It's about access, and unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately, the parent has to be savvy in order for the student to be able to take advantage of that. The reason I say it's unfortunate is because some parents don't bring that to the table, and the students shouldn't have to be punished because of that.
But I think one of the challenges, and that is why we're so happy as the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus to be able to provide this forum
Yes.
For communities. I think that many parents are not even aware that there are pre-college programs that they can enroll their 7th grader in. I work across the street from Essex County College. They have a very robust program for elementary school parents. But I think that you've raised an issue for us today that perhaps we need to begin to talk to our Secretary of Higher Education to make certain that we do a better job of publicizing these assets that we do have in our states. I think we make assumptions that people know there are upward bound programs. I know Seton Hall has a very robust upward bound program. But if we can get our students into the college loop beginning as a 7th grader, by the time they get to the 12th grade, they'll be ready to hit the ground running. Al-Jihad, we're running out of time. I mean, our time has gone quickly. It's been a fascinating discussion talking about not just EOF, but access to higher education for students as a whole. I'd like to ask you, some of your peers who found themselves not going to college, what did they end up doing?
I still keep in touch with everybody that doesn't still go to my school. Most of them are just working. Mm-hmm. They're doing what they can. They're mm-hmm. not just sitting around there. They're working. They're just getting their money up. Some of them do plan on coming back to school. As for when they're coming back to school, that's unsure at this moment. But I would like to see them back in school, because most of them I went through my EOF program with, and it's like it's like if your brother falls, you want to see him get back up. So I like to see my brothers get back up. That's right. And you know, I love that slogan that we lift as we climb. Well, I'd like to thank Maretta Hodges and Al-Jihad White for joining with us today on this program that's hosted by the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus. I hope that it has raised awareness for our viewership about issues confronting communities of color, particularly around the issue of access to higher education. I think that as citizens in this state, it is incumbent upon all of us as citizens to express to our representatives at the municipal, county, state, and federal level that college and the ability to go to college is something that's very important to us. So let's lock hands and advocate. Thank you so much for being here today, Maretta and Al-Jihad, and I wish you all the luck in the world as you graduate next year. Thank you for being here this afternoon.
Thank you.